And I would like to welcome everybody to the February 20th Saline County Quorum meeting. I'm going to ask that you would, Mr. Justice Whitley, lead us in prayer, and Justice Keck lead us in the pledge.
Please bow your heads with me. Dear Heavenly Father, we're so very thankful for another opportunity to come here and to serve our communities together. We pray, Lord God, that tonight that you would order our steps, that you would be a lamp unto our feet, a light unto our path. Grant us wisdom so that you would be pleased with the decisions that are made here tonight. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Clerk, will you call roll, please?
Bisbee.
Here.
Baxter.
Here.
Dillon.
Here.
Howell. Here. Ruth.
Here.
Bellinger. Curtis.
Here.
Alvarez.
Here.
Engel.
Here. 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 Here.
12 present.
Thank you very much. Couple of things. We first start off by saying there was a name. It's new and different to that roll call. And Mr. Wyrick, I welcome you. I appreciate your willingness to serve. Mr. Wyrick is filling a vacancy that was vacated by J.R. Walters. Y'all remember Mr. Walters? And Mr. Wyrick, thank you. If you have anything to say to the court, feel free to do so. But here's my second. Pull this down to your mouth and push that button until you finish talking.
I just want to say, I thank JR for recommending me and for this position. Thanks, Judge, for sending, taking the brave chance sending to the governor's office. And I will be most pleased to get to know all of y'all and hopefully I can fit in and work and help the county grow. I'm a big opponent on growth. I have no reasons because it's more tax revenue for the county to improve things we need for the people in the county. Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you again, Mr. Wyrick. Again, please remember to, if you need to address the court, pull it down, push the button. Thank you all for that. I hope that you all have had the opportunity to review the minutes from our last meeting.
Second.
We got a motion by Billingsley, a second by Howell. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Minutes are approved. No reports or proclamations. I am going to introduce Vicki Kentner. Vicki, are you, who would please come forward? Dickie is going to give a update to the Saline County Public Water Authority. We'll leave time for questions at the end of that. As you all know, there were rescue fund dollars of $10 million appropriated to assist in the Saline County sustainability of long-term water. And Mr. Kentner is here tonight. Kentner, the floor is yours.
My name is Dick Kentner of Saline Regional Public Water Authority. And I would like to first.
Mr. Kentner, I know you're not a JP, but you got to follow the same rules. Step up to that mic and.
Sure. I would like to introduce you to our board. These are volunteers that have been working a long time and hard to get to long-term water. So we're really excited about where we are. I'd like to introduce those to you. First, stand up, introduce yourself, and so who you our secretary, Kim was vice president, Bobby is our secretary treasurer. You know anybody higher than him on the paper?
All right, we'll see, right?
You've been utility city of
That's
Big Dimple from his South of Florida.
you.
And be a resident, city shadows.
And Fred, Jack.
I'm Jack. Part of our stuff.
Thank y'all. We started this project some time ago, it's papers around the table. Everywhere we've been, what we've been through, and, we really appreciate that money that's all put to the bank. So we feel like we're about ready for it, and, shortly Matt's gonna do a presentation to kind of explain it. Judge, I'm gonna go quick, I promise. So, questions. You need to have questions, ask us. That's what makes it better. I don't care what it is. There's a lot of misconception, a lot of things out there that probably need to be straightened out. But somebody in this group will be able to answer. So,
Talk in the microphone.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So any questions, I don't care what they are, whatever, that's what makes us better at what we do. And, we can spend a lot of time in a lot of places to tell you where we've been. Is Lanny here? Lanny. Our representatives and senators are a big reason we're here. Every time we got ready to move, we get an obstacle. Every time. And so they pick the ball back up. We got a lot of easements down there on the river. And a lot of property. The reason we own this property down there is because we went down there to get an initial 10 acres for the pipe coming out of the river. And so we went back and got locked out. They told us we couldn't come in there. So while we were outside the gate, the gentleman drove up that had land in there. He couldn't get in, made him mad, made it short. He had almost 40 acres. And we needed an easement down the back of it to get out to Blacktop. So, wound up, he said, I want to clear cut it. And he said, if y'all want to buy it, you can buy it all and do what you want. So we bought it for $117,000. And then we had a chance, we had to get another easement. Now we'll get into that. I don't want to rain on this parade, but we own another 10 acres that we wanted an easement off of. And they offered it to us, we bought it. Then we had to get easements, a quarter of a mile each way from the intake, and 300 feet back up the back. We have all those. That has been. So Matt, if you're ready, anytime, come on. Any questions, there'll be somebody can answer. Right.
If you. Try to do that. Hey, guys, my name's Ben Dillon, I'm with Christie Engineers, and, I've been working with the board on this project. I was here only about 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And presented the project with you guys, allocated those funds initially, so the board has been working ever since then. Steady, for the last 2 years, trying to get in a position to come back where we are tonight. As you, to let them continue to move down the path and use that money for the project, so. You should be proud of the board here, they've done a lot of hard work, I suppose, over the last few years. Yeah, like Nikki said, I'm gonna run through some slides and try to condense down a lot of information in a short amount of time, and so you guys stop me if you have any questions. I've got the clicker, so let's see if I can make it work. Okay. Before I get into where we do, what we've done since we've met, I wanted to just go over the project in general and remind everyone what we're doing, why we're doing what we're Saline Regional Water Authority has been in existence in some form or fashion since 20 to 30 years. And it's taken several days over the years. There's been several efforts over the last several decades to bring a water supply to Saline County. Previous efforts said one point, even as far back to the 1960s, we planned to dam up the Saline River and create Lake Benton. A lot of people may not know that, and that has a whole other story behind it, but that's when it started, and there's been lots of efforts to start Washita, those efforts, did not pan out, for many different reasons. The Lake Washita was a primary target for the group for many years, as some of you might know. And then, at some point, 20 or so years ago, there was an offer to build a reservoir, and that effort also failed. So there's been numerous attempts, this Saline Regional Water Group, in some form, there's some name, and maybe at one point called Saline Watershed Regional Water Distribution District. It's a mouthful. City watershed line, previous name, right now, the public water pool. The goal of what we're saying is to bring a long-term water supply to Saline County. And so that's what we're here today to do. And this is an old story that's been told over and over again, and we think we're to the finish line. So the proposed project that we have, it is bringing the water supply from the Washita River below Riddle Dam, which is right below Lake Catherine. Some of you might be familiar with Lake Catherine. So we're right below Riddle Dam. There's already an intake right. That location of the McKenzie Water District, which is a large water district in spreads over about 4 to 5 counties. And project is supposed to be located right adjacent to that, and I'll show you that. There's lots of other water supplies down the shore. It's kind of an interesting, I won't go into this detail here, but there's so much emphasis on Lake Washita all those years. Well, it's the same water, okay? The Washita River flows through Lake Washita, it flows through Lake Hamilton, it flows through Lake Catherine, gets to the bottom of those three reservoirs. So it's all the same water. We've done testing and shown it's significantly, it's not significantly different, it's all the same water. So excellent water source, abundant water there. And so the proposed project is to bring water from the river down to Saline County. And then those are the 8 members, the current 8 members of the project. And all of which I think Dickie just named there, Benton, Bryan, East End, Haskell, Salem, Sheridan, West, and Woodland Hills. And so all those are represented here tonight, and all those have been very active in all of our board meetings since our last meeting. Another I think important distinction about the way this board is set up is there's 8 members that I just mentioned of the board. And in the current bylaws organization of the public water authority, there's 8 members and there's 8 votes. Okay, so it's not a weighted voting system. So everyone has a thing voting capacity as the large thing, as the same voting capacity as the small thing. And so it creates a very flat, political concept. And so everyone has the same voting rights. And I think that's very important. And honestly, this is the only concept that works in these. If you start having a weighted voting system, and things quickly fall apart as you get them in. So that's very important to the board. And I think it's very important to the one to mention that today. Everyone's at the table, everyone's at the seat, same voting. It's a very healthy relationship. So here's our proposed project. This map shows the water service territories of all 8 of the members of the board there. Starting with the brown there at the bottom is the Southwest Water District. And from south to north, you got Haskell and Benton. The purple up to the top is Salem. And then you got Bryan and Sharon Hills and Hills there too. So those are the 8 water service territories that are a part of the project. we're planning to build an intake on the Washington River. Like I said, right below Rumble Dam, and it's in Hot Spring County. Right there on the bottom of the corner of the figure. And build a raw water transmission system from that intake structure into Saline County. So we'll transmit raw water to Saline County and build a water treatment plant somewhere in Saline County. Those dots are conceptual. We don't know what water treatment plant's gonna go yet. We're trying to get to the point where we can aggressively study those types of things and begin engineering in earnest. And so we're to that point. But the concept is pipe raw water from the river to Saline County, treat it, and then deliver it from that point to each of the constituent members. So we're gonna be delivering treated water to our constituent members from the water treatment plant. The one exception to that rule, just a pointer, the one exception to that rule is Benton. And Todd's here with Benton, and he's been great. Benton's been great. Benton is a little bit different than everyone else. Benton has their own water treatment plant, as I'm sure you all know. The others do not have a water treatment plant, so we've had to work through that kink. And I think we've come to an excellent agreement. Benton primarily wants to participate in this project as a raw water customer. And so it's kind of hard to see, but there's essentially you can see this arrow there that comes off the raw water line, showing that Benton is planning to take raw water T, if you will, off the raw water line. All the detail conceptually, framework has been laid out in the contracts. And so it's up to Todd and myself to figure out the details of how that's gonna work, which we've already had lots of discussions about that. It's planning on taking primarily raw water and probably water supply, finished water, we'll probably have emergency supply going on, but those details are gonna be worked out. Contractually, business info is all. Don't shake your head, you know, she's not in Jenny Flex, okay, please, I want you to, like he said. So again, the proposed project, the intake on the Washington River, raw water transmission system to a new water treatment plant somewhere located here in Saline County. Then finished water distribution from that point on to our constituent members. Those are the large parts of the project. So in a different way, you can see there in this pictorial, in the raw water line there between the water intake structure on the river and the water plant. Got a bit in there taking a raw water source off of that transmission line in between the two. Otherwise, we got everyone else taking water through the treatment plant and through the distribution system. And I think it's important to mention that Benton has their own water treatment plant, so they're somewhat self-sufficient on the finished water side. None of them members here have water treatment plant. So this provides ownership, if you will, of the greater majority of the Saline County in their own water treatment plant, which has not been the case thus far. Those folks either buy water from CAW or they buy water from Benton. So this allows everyone to take ownership in their own Saline County water treatment plant. First question.
Yes, sir. You brought up the CAW. Are they all online still? They haven't thrown any hiccups in that thing?
No, sir. So, CAW, they had some questions in the beginning, and they've since sent a letter of support. So we can partner with them in all the ways that we can, is possibly with the backup supply, possibly with partnerships on easement sharing of easements. And so CAW did have some questions in the beginning. That's gone back a year or two, but that we worked through that with them, and they're in support of our project. Sir. And all the connections, while we're on that subject, all the connections to CAW from CAW or Salem, all those will remain in place. Those will remain in place and make good partners with Central Arkansas Water. So if something were to happen, we need that backup supply from Central Arkansas Water, we can always fall back with that water supply from them. So we want to keep them as a partner, and they've indicated this. Okay, so we're here a couple years ago, and since that time, we've gone to work, and it's been work, it's been slow, we've had a lot of regulatory hoops to jump through. But, with board's help and with our support from Sandy and legislators, we got through all that, we got a lot done. Dickie mentioned, since we were here last time, I think we had purchased some property on the intake site. We purchased an additional 10-acre property on the intake site since then. Very important, Dickie mentioned this too, we acquired all of the health department required intake buffer zones around the intake. So one of the, not to get too far into regulatory here with you, but one of the requirements the health department has is you have to have a protected intake for any water supply. If you develop any new water supply for public water consumption, you have to have a protected easement around your, we'll get to that, around the intake. And so that may be difficult to get depending on who owns the property around your intake structure. So we were very selective in the location that we chose for the proposed intake. Kimsey Water is right next to us, and I'll show you that. They've been a great partner here, but as of, 3 months ago, we finally have all of the required buffer zone easements in hand, around the intake, and we're in the process of sending those to the health department now. Most importantly, probably of the list, we've gotten permits that we need for the water withdrawal from the Arkansas Natural Resources Commission. It's a fairly onerous process to go through to be granted the right to withdraw water from the state of Arkansas through their regulatory process. You have to go through and get water quality compliance. And a part of the water quality compliance process is you got to get something called a non-riparian water withdrawal permit. So we didn't own property there before some date in 1990. Therefore, we have to go through a process with them and demonstrate that there is water available for withdrawal. We don't want to damage any other downstream users of that water, so on and so forth. So it's a fairly onerous process to go through. It takes 15 months to get through that process with the Arkansas Natural Resources Commission. What for help? Some people may still be showing you that. Isn't that right? Nelson? But we finally got through that process and we have those permits in hand. And I think the most important one on there is we have commitments, signed agreements from all the members. Talking about water purchase agreements from all the members of the utility to move forward with the project. So we've gone through the pro forma, financial pro forma involvement process, and Judge Brumley's been a part of that observant, been an observation of most of those meetings. And now we've got everyone in agreement with that, of those agreements, and we think we're proud to say that everyone's in agreement with that. So we have commitment for all those agreements. Also, since we received all of our permits from the Resources Commission, we applied for and received a commitment for funding from their drinking water RLF program of $120 up to $125 million loan from them. So we got a commitment from a large loan from them for the project as well, which is a big deal. We got to work through the terms of that loan, and we still have a lot of hurdles to jump through to get that bidded, get that loan inked. But we do have a commitment for them to do that. That's from their actual commission, not just from staff. It's been from their commission. Okay, I mentioned the property that they own down on the river in Hot Spring County. You can see, if you look at that triangle on the kind of the middle right of this thing, you see a little triangle called marked Kimsey Intake. That's the Kimsey Water Intake property, where they have an intake in the river, much like the intake that we will build for our intake structure there. And I believe the last time we were here, a couple of years ago, that the red there indicates the property that we owned at that time. The the initial 10-acre site that they purchased right on the river that goes out into the river. And then the adjacent 38-acre site was maybe 38 or 40-acre site that Dickie just mentioned. They've since acquired that site as well. They had that site in here last time. Since that time, the red is what we had last time. Since that time, they've acquired another 10 acres adjacent to the initial 10-acre site that we had. So in total now, we have about 60 acres in ownership of the Saline Regional Public Water Authority on the river down there. So that provides some buffer zone around our intake, whenever we do build the intake, as well as any other ancillary facilities we may need there for electrical, supply house or maintenance shop or whatever needs to be done there. But we do have that property acquired and in their name now for the project. So just a visual, if you will, of where that property is actually located. At the top of the screen, you'll see there Lake Catherine in the background, and then Rimmel down there. That's how close we are to the dam, just right downstream of the dam. And then our property is there, the red circle on the right. So the property is right adjacent to, again, Kimsey would just be right off this picture to the right. That's our property right there looking upstream. It's about, I believe it's about a third of a mile right downstream. It's so close to the dam that, I mean, when the hydrocarbon units turn on, you can watch the water rise and fall just by however many units they're running at the dam. I mean, it's right there, just right downstream of the dam. Any questions? Okay, buffer zone that I mentioned, the health department requires this protected buffer zone around your intake structure. And if you, the long yellow strips on either side of the river is intended to depict the buffer zone. As Dickie mentioned, the requirement is to be a 1/4 mile upstream and 1/4 mile downstream at 300 feet back, both sides of the river. And so the concept here is pretty simple. You need to protect the shoreline around your water supply intake to protect the intake from some contaminants they may get in the water. So this is a standard regulatory requirement. It looks easy on paper, but when you start overlaying that with parcels of ownership, it gets a little more complicated and it gets real quick. And so that's part of the reason why we purchased that adjacent 10 acres to our site to the, I guess it'd be to the west. Long story short, we have all the easements in place. After, 2 years of wrangling with the property owners, we have all of the buffer zone easements in place at this time. It did cost some money. There's the overlay of the parcels that were included in the buffer zone. It included, actually, the one marked number 1 was Entergy. I don't know how many of you guys have worked with Entergy on something like this before, but it took the longest. I'll just say that of the group. But we did finally, our attorneys did finally work with their attorneys and get that worked out here in the last, I think in the last about 3 months. We've checked all these boxes, is a point I made. We've got all the buffer zones in hand, and we've got this in place. We actually don't have to have this in place by reg until you actually start withdrawing water, which we're years from doing that. But it is obviously good due diligence to do this work on the front end to make sure we've got everything in place before we get started. The property owner across the river was actually just one landowner who owned everything and wanting nothing to do with us. So that took a while to get done too. It was just a few minutes short of a judge's decree in a condemnation hearing down in Hot Spring County. We did get settled on that one right before the condemnation hearing. Bottom line is, we got all of them in hand, and we're happy to report that here tonight. Our permits, I mentioned we've got water plant compliance, and as part of getting water plant compliance, this non-riparian water withdrawal permit is a big part of that. And this is what actually allows us to withdraw water from the waters of the state. The waters are owned by the state, they're controlled by the state of Arkansas. So to go pump water out of that river, that's all we have to get. Once you get the water withdrawal permit, there's no ongoing fees to pay for, benefits foregone or some other regulatory ongoing federal costs going on like you might have at a federal reservoir. Water is the permit is ours, and it just has to be updated annually, which is a small. But these are two big permits that we celebrated when we got. It took quite a long time to get those. Okay, so here's back to our members and our contracts that we have in place, and I believe all this, we've checked all these boxes. We've been working on this for the last several months, and Perry Young, our attorney, is not here, being represented by his partner, I believe. But he's worked with all the constituent members to make sure everyone's satisfied. It's fairly standard water contract. We have to work through the cost and the pro forma and what the water's gonna cost. All that with all the members. And I believe we checked all those boxes. All right, Iggy? So, any questions with that?
I have one for you, Matt. Are we going to see, are our constituents going to see a cost savings, or what are we expecting as far as price?
So, speaking about each entity individually, because everyone is different. Some people buy the water from CAW, some people buy the water from Benton. Benton has their own, of course, their own water treatment plant, so they're a different animal as well. The prices, I've got a slide I want to show you about Central Arkansas water. There is quite a few members that do buy their water from Central Arkansas water, and the initial price will be a little bit higher than the current Central Arkansas water rates. But the members, I believe all agree that it's in the best interest of the members and the county to be in control of that process moving forward over the next generations of residents of Saline County, instead of continuing to buy water as a wholesale customer from someone that you have no control over. And I've got a slide that I'll show you. So I don't mean to answer your question, but it is a little bit higher than CAW on day one. Is that?
You'll have an illustration in a minute.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
I believe, to answer you.
So getting to my point, a lot of reasons for this project: control of the water supply, your control of the cost, both now and in the future. You'll have water availability to use for economic development. Whereas if you're buying water from someone else, you have no control over how much water you can provide to any one industry that may need that. Obviously, independence, being able to, all the things that I've said, being able to provide, many of the members here do not have a water treatment plant, being able to have a part in your own water treatment plant, control your own destiny, so to speak, as far as independence goes. So their vision for the future, being able to plan appropriately as a county, and being part of the cost decisions that goes into the daily operation and maintenance of the water treatment system. This board, there's several of these boards around the state, public water authority boards. they'll typically be monthly or quarterly, depending on how busy they are. But each member of the board will be able to sit at the board table each month and see where do they stand on cost, how, if it, O&M, if they're running under budget or over budget. Are we gonna need to raise water rates next year? Can we lower rates next year? Can we pay off more debt next year? All these are decisions that each one of the members of the board will be involved in on the day-to-day, month-to-month, concept, which you don't get something like that when you buy water from Central Arkansas Supply. That's just not how things work. CAW is owned and has members from Little Rock and North Little Rock, and the members here are members and they're wholesale customers, and they're told what the water rates are. And CAW is a great thing, don't get me wrong, but it's just not the same as when you have your own board and have your own system.
So should all members expect to pay the same rate then? Is that?
All members will pay. And that's been important to keep as a bedrock, what we're doing from day one. So thank you for asking.
Is that the same rate, wholesale and retail?
Okay, so wholesale only. So retail is after it passes, retail is, everyone's different on the retail side. So, because it's got to transmit from the wholesale meter to your individual meter. So each individual member has their own costs they have to account for.
Just want to make sure you understood.
This is absolutely wholesale only. Everyone will continue to run their own system the way they do now. Salem will still have, water users will still run Salem, or we will still have water system, water operators, they'll fix their own leaks, set their own meters, none of that will change. I mean, the typical water, retail water customer won't know the difference. It'll just be a different source. But we'll add another wholesale meter to the system and open it, and then we'll use the CAW meter as supplemental and or emergency. So we're adding redundancy to the system. I will say this about the another politician. Don't get me wrong. This is a non-political process. You have everyone has one seat at the table, so it just takes all the political boundaries away for healthy relationships among the members. Most local relationships. There you go at the bottom, everyone makes the same water rights. So it builds a very healthy relationship among them. So here's a graph that a couple weeks ago, you asked about how this affects the rates. We came up with this graph. The blue line on the left, and this is in comparison to our expected water rates on day one to the Central Arkansas water rates that everyone wants to go compare it to. And so the blue dots, the blue line on the left, are published water rates from Central Arkansas Water over the next 10 years or so. So those are directly from Central Arkansas Water. They put out their water rates for the next 10 years. You can see the trend. It's not hard to see the trend in the blue line there. And so just taking that trend and projecting it, you can, we don't know what that trend's going to do, if it's going to flatten out, if it's going to be even more vertical. The fact is, I think, speaking for the members, that they have no control with it. You don't know if that trend is going to, which direction that's going to go. What we do know is that if and when this project is online, that the green line will represent our expected trend for our rate. So at some point in the future, hard to tell when, there's going to be a crossover to where the water rates will equalize what CAW would be paying at that time. So there is a time period in the interim here where, yes, if they were to stay as members of Central Arkansas Water, the rates could be lower for a while. But I'm speaking for the board, I think they're thinking longer term than that. It's a longer term look than just the first next 10 years or so, this is a 50, 100-year long look at the next generation of residents of Saline County. So that's what we're looking at, is being able to control what we have on the graph there is that green line, which is our whole salt water rate after we go on serve online. And what we do know is that green line, what we do know about the financing, and this is something we talked about a lot in the board meetings, as you can imagine, to get our water rates set on day one to satisfy the bondholders, we've got to make ends meet on day one, right? So what we do not have built into what any of our pro formas at all are any kind of growth in Saline County. So no growth. We have to make ends meet on day one, which makes sense. And so only common sense would tell you if the county continues to grow and the water demands continue to increase, like we've seen with all the other authorities, the math gets better, okay, for the members of the board. And when I say that, what I mean is that the water rates could come down. Or we could, or the board, decision, I keep saying we, I did, but the board could decide to pay off the debt faster. So there's all kinds of things. The fact of the matter is, I think, speaking for the board, is you're in control. They're in control. They're at the steering wheel. It's their project. It's their water system. They're in control of the future. And I think that's the look that the board's taking over the long term with this project. Any more questions on that before I leave? Okay, so I think if you guys release the funds tonight and allow the board to begin spending the money, you know, what are those funds going to be spent for, you know, immediately? They're ready to start spending the money now, get out of the gates and get moving. Well, as we talked about this, right off the bat, they have debt. Okay, so as Dickie mentioned, they borrowed money to buy the land. They borrowed money from Salem to buy the land. They borrowed money from Salem to buy one of the easements. And they borrowed money from Southwest to buy another one of the easements. And so I think the first thing that they would do is to request some of those funds to pay off that debt for starters. But there's all kinds of other project costs that will be used for in the next couple of years. But we know you guys have to spend that money by some matter of fact date on the calendar in January 2026. Judge, that's what it's going to be.
The
December.
The ARPA funds.
26. Yeah. End of 26. Yeah. So we got a couple of years. We got to get on and spend the money. So we got land purchases to make. We got to find a water treatment plant, buy that land, buy that property. There could be the pump station sites. There'll be land that has to be purchased. We got 20 to 25 miles of easements to get. That's going to cost quite a bit of money to get those easements, both from just the purchase of the easements as well as acquisition services. And then there's lots of engineering costs. There's a big engineering heavy lift here on the engineering side that we got to get going on to determine where we need to go with the DLL water line so we can provide the easements, where the water treatment plant needs to be located, other environmental studies that will come up from the Corps of Engineers and other state and federal regulatory agencies that we'll need to address. And then the beginning of the construction projects that will be going. As soon as we get the engineering done, then we move into the construction phase of this. That's where we get going. You know, other phase will follow. And I think don't forget that these grants, they are, you guys have already appropriated the money, so I don't know, we don't really need to speak to that. But what we're going to be reducing, offsetting some of the rising costs we've seen with the pandemic, where our cost estimates skyrocketed after the pandemic, and so this money would be helpful for the project to offset those rising costs as well. Yeah, that'll do.
Great.
Thank you, Valentine.
questions?
So I got a couple comments and a question. we first had this 20-something million dollars of ARPA funds, and a couple of you guys weren't on the Quorum board, but we looked at projects that would be impactful for the most citizens of Saline County. We picked this project because it impacts a wide majority of Saline County. We picked the jail project because obviously public safety. We also picked another project dealing with emergency communications. Those affect everybody. I think this has been one of the best projects this Quorum Court could fund. And one other comment, Matt mentioned it a couple times, but he was a pretty modest guy over there. Representative Fight and Senator Hammer have fought the whole way on this project. Helping. This is the kind of stuff you can do when you have seasoned legislators at the Capitol that know how to get things done. And they didn't pass a bill or do anything like that. They worked with stakeholders to get things done, and they absolutely should be commended. One other question, Matt. You said, I want to know how many MGDs it's increased from 2022. You said a number in 2022. I want to know, is that still the same number? The same, your constituent, the board, do they want more water now than what they originally agreed to in 2022?
So the only thing that changed since then is Benton has moved from the finished water side to the raw water side. So that changed the finished water number of Benton at that time, I believe, was committed to two MGD on the finished water side. And they wanted to remove that commitment and get on the raw water side for 5 MGD. So it turned out to be a wash. We figured out a way to make it work with them moving from the raw water side. And so we did not change the size of the water treatment plant when they got off. We left this water treatment plant is still a 15 million gallon per day water treatment plant. So we feel like that gives us some buffer there to grow into the future, and it puts us out. And so whenever Benton moved to the finished water side, that just, quite frankly, provided more buffer or room to grow on the finished water side, since they're on the raw water side.
So one last question, two-part. What is there any other regulatory hurdle that you could foresee? And after that, what's your timeline on going forward? I mean, I see this timeline from 20 years back, but I'd like a timeline on going forward.
Yeah.
I know that's tough to guess and estimate, but
Where are we gonna start? That's the question. Like I said, there's a heavy lift on the engineering side, and we're trying to get started on that. So you get started with that now. It's hard to give you a time frame, but I'd say a couple years of engineering, and then a couple years of construction, and then a year or so of start. So you look at 5 years. It would be a ballpark.
you don't foresee any other
No, sir. All the regulatory authorities that the health department, the health department and the university are, they would do, they've been involved in all of our process. And the water plant compliance, which includes the water withdrawal permit. It's a big one. And, with the health department, the buffer zone, that is pretty standard engineering, reviews with the health department, which we do every day. So there's really nothing there that is significant going on.
You mentioned the easements, that there is a great deal of easements to be gotten between here and Hot Spring County.
Thank you, volunteer.
Yeah, absolutely. And you said, looking to get started, actually breaking ground in about 5 years, give or take. Is that correct? To be finished in 5 years. Wow. Okay.
We've got to do the alignment study, we've got to do our engineering work, because the topography between here and there matters, and there's hydraulics, don't worry about it, there's a lot that goes into that, so we've got to do the alignment study and do our engineering work. So we know where to go get the easements. At that, at that time, we'll be ready, once we get the easements, we'll be ready to go to construction.
It looks roughly like you're going to be following the I-30 corridor for easements, pipeline easements
I
necessary.
mean, it's parallel to Interstate 30, but it's several miles away. We're really looking at following the right of way, so to speak, if that's what you mean.
I have just one comment on easements there. Since we've had so much fun with Southwest Trail easements, that's kind of a concern to me because we thought the Southwest Trail was moving along, all of a sudden got into the easement thing and just kind of moved slowly down. So that's me. Just want, we need to keep that in the back of our mind because easements sometimes are not easy and all of a sudden someone gets out and they know they're looking at easement and that easement cost just goes to. The other question I have is, this is a new project, so it shouldn't have any impact with the new legislation. That all the water department, water, wastewater, folks should have taken, I think it's X 605. So there's nothing we have to worry about on this project, since this is a new project.
Well, a couple of things. Any new regulation would affect us. So if there's any new water treatment regulation that EPA were to send down, we would have to deal with that, of course. Nothing, but there's nothing there that we don't know about. No worries there. Act 605 does not pertain to what wholesale water providers.
Okay, that's what, so next.
Wholesale providers are excluded.
Thank you.
Judge. So looking at this timeline of events, it looks like that there was a report out talking about Lake Winona, Lake Momel supplying Central Arkansas for 50 years. And that was done 20 years ago. So I'd be kind of interested to know what that still looks like. But with that being said, I guess my question would be is I would figure that doesn't factor in the percentage of growth that we have seen in the last 10 to 15 years and the needs that we have in Saline County.
Sure.
So what type of, I guess, length of time are we looking at for this? You keep talking about, this is for the future, this is for the future generations. How far out are we expecting that this would benefit or with the supply? Yeah. Sure.
Right, so that's hard to tell, of course, because the growth rate's unknown. But when we looked at the 1% growth rate, which I think isn't, the growth rate's actually been a little higher.
That's great.
2.3, don't you tell me today? We looked at
They're tracking at about 2% per year.
2%, yeah. So you're looking at in the 2050 timeframe, Phil, there needs to be some sort of a expansion of the intake structure. The important thing is that you can't build the intake structure for the water treatment plant. I'm sorry. Water treatment plant will be built in a manner in which it can be expanded. And so at some time within the next 30 years, there may have to be an expansion of the water treatment plant. But the raw water line has excess capacity in it. The intake structure will have excess capacity in it. So all those things will be built into the planning of the processes. But it's somewhere around the year 2050.
Okay, that's for the plant, but what about the actual water supply? I mean, the water supply because this is talking about Lake Winona, Lake Maumelle, we're talking about the Ouachita River. So is there an expected timeline of how long we can expect that water supply to last?
Once we put that straw in the river, I'll say this, we have a 15 MGD water treatment plant we're planning to build. We've got a permit for 22 MGD of withdrawal. So the permit to withdraw water from the river is 22. We have a partnership, so that's all we have on paper today. The raw water line capacity will be set at 22 MGD initially. We have a Kinsey Water, which is right next door. They have a water treatment plant or a water withdrawal permit of 25 MGD. They use one. We have a partnership with Kinsey to share in their withdrawal permit in the future. So we partnered with them and Malvern downstream as well. They have 25 MGD allocation. They're using it. So there is excess water on that river. Fact of the matter is, I can tell you The hardest part is getting the straw put into the river, get one permit set. Once you need to expand, there's a way to expand.
You know, needless to say, this is a big deal for Saline County. And I think that, it's huge, probably one of the, been on the Quorum for about 5 years, probably one of the biggest, to me, thing that we did for Saline County. And I'd just like to thank all of the board members for their vision and, the hard work that they put in to do this. I mean, I can look at this and tell that this ain't been an easy thing. I remember, I was born in 1957. I remember when I was a kid here in the Lake Benton. And it's been something about water. Every so often it would crop up, but finally, something's being done. Saline County is one of the fastest growing counties in the state of Arkansas. And it's coming at a time when we need it. But I'd just like to thank all you guys for all that you've done.
I have a question, I only won't. That's good, I can talk about it. So you mentioned in the presentation that, you had funding up to $125 million in a loan. Is that going to be, do we have enough funds to complete this project, or is there other funding mechanisms that we are looking at or that's being looked at as well?
Yes, sir. So it's a $175 million project.
Okay.
We got commitment for $125 million ANRC. There's conversations with them that can go on. You know, interest rates are fall. It's in our favor. Dan Burnett with Stevens, I'm not sure if you guys know her. She's become the what's her title? Chief Financial Advisor, something. She's been really helpful to the board, and she's advising the board on those items, and we're actively looking for additional funding or comparative funding to the ANRC loan. So we have a commitment to them for that loan. But if the markets were to move in such a way that the private market may become better, then we could shift horses over to that market as well. So those are details that have to be worked out between now and then. We made estimates where we think that would be, and we think we've got conservative numbers in our portfolio.
So we don't think it's going to be an issue to get the other 50 million.
No, sir.
Put the project.
No, sir.
This is a question for Angie. We still have the $10 million sitting.
Yes, sir, we did. And it's already been appropriated.
Appropriated all. Would it be beneficial for us, and if you build a house, there's a draw schedule. Would it be beneficial to ask them to give us a draw schedule for that $10 million? So we can see when it's going to need to be drawn, so it gets out by the time it needs to get out. And this is, you tell us, you said that, we need to have.
Yeah, I think the plan just, from the beginning, it was for them to invoice the county.
Well, they haven't invoiced. But, to make sure, here's the draw schedule, or here's the invoice schedule. You're asking, to cover some of the land purchases and stuff like that. There's some engineering dollars. It'd be nice to have that, kind of warm fuzzy that they know how it's, or we know how it's in, it's going to be spent, and it's going to be spent this way.
Just Skag. I'll need all executed contracts on my desk. I don't think it will be a challenge at all for them to build a schedule on how they're going to spend this prior to that December 31st day.
I bet they'll be very good at it.
670 days. I think we can have that warm fuzzy for you. Need the executed contracts, and then we'll get that fuzzy. Any other questions? Dickie, board, Matt, I have had the opportunity to observe, to learn. I want to thank even our friends from Hot Spring County. I mean, without them, it was said earlier, over and over and over again. I think this is worth saying, Justice Curtis mentioned it. This project happens without any increase in tax dollars. It's a $10 million commitment that you all said that we're in for. I was at a meeting in 2004 at the brand new Hertzfeld Library that at that time County Judge Lanny Fight had called. We're talking about this water project. Right after that, Judge Fight came up with a public facility board. And on that public facility board, he talked about the consolidation of 911. And this year, we'll be able to see both of those things come to fruition. Just a short 20 years later. But it started much further back.
Right.
And so I appreciate the quorum courts that have served, the county judges that have made this happen, and the board that has been very accustomed to tasting rejection over and over and over again, but they didn't quit. It's one of our most fundamental resources and essential resources that we're talking about, people being able to enjoy, us being able to secure, and we'll never even know these people's names. And that's really why we serve. Also, those dollars, those same dollars that are no burden to the taxpayer will go to fund our jail expansion of 82 beds that the contract was executed with CDI with a $7.2 million guarantee max, which is $104 a square foot less than the lowest bid that we received just months ago. All of these dollars that you all had the leadership to say yes to, big decisions, great work from all parties involved. And I just appreciate the opportunity for us being able to say we will secure our county in these ways. So we'll look for those executed contracts to be put on our desk. If you all have any other questions, feel free to ask. Mr. Kenner,
Yes, sir.
you have anything else?
No, sir.
That's why I ended with to get those executed contracts on the desk.
We have to change this in one shot. Yeah.
Thank you. I'd be remiss if I didn't say this. I was able to show up late to the Bryant signing of the contract tonight. Mayor Sanders, I know that your time is limited, is mayor of Bryant, but I cannot thank you enough for the initiative that you and your city council have shown to partner. Mayor Farmer, tell us how we're going to get it done attitude that you have shared, and that the Benton Public Utility Commission and the Benton City Council have shown is, I can't thank you enough. Thank you. I know most people here were here to hear the following agenda items. So we will move to new business. Comments by the public will be allowed for items on the agenda and will take place individually for each item as we work through the agenda. The first agenda item is Exhibit A.
Make a motion to suspend the rules and read everything by title only tonight.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to read by title only. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Motion to approve Exhibit A.
We have a motion by Justice Curtis and a second by Justice Bisbee. You'll read by title only, please.
Being enacted by Saline County, State of Arkansas, establishing the daily rate for fiscal calendar year 2024 to be charged to municipalities for keeping inmates in municipalities and regions in the facility.
Motion by Justice Curtis, a second by Justice Bisbee. Do we have any discussion?
Note the number changing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I handed out and made available to the public a amended exhibit with the rate of $70. $70 is the correct for anybody that's outside contract for inmate
Are we still missing one that's outside contract?
that we had last year. That's
That
correct.
hasn't changed.
That's correct. To that point, there has been a letter sent to the Bauxite mayor and all city council members. And as of yet, I have had. Any other discussion? Anybody here to speak for or against this exhibit? Roll call, please.
Patrick,
Yes.
Billingsley,
Yes.
Howell,
Yes.
Ruth,
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Engel,
Yes.
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 Bisbee,
Yeah.
12-4, 1 absent, ordinance 2024.
Exhibit A is passed. Exhibit B.
Motion to approve.
We have a motion by Justice Whitley, a second by Justice Heck. If you read by title only, please.
Being enacted by the Court of Saline County, State of Arkansas, an ordinance to be entitled, an ordinance to amend the 2024 Saline County budget ordinance from 2023 to 2030 to appropriate transfer funds, therefore, to the various budgets and for other purposes.
Motion by Justice Whitley, a second by Justice Keck. Any discussion? Is there anybody here to speak for or against Exhibit B? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Billingsley.
Yes.
Howell.
Yes.
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 Engel,
Yes.
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 Bisbee,
Yes.
12-4, 1 absent, ordinance 2024-5.
B is passed. Exhibit C.
Move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion by Billingsley and a second by Justice Howe. Read by title only, please.
Being enacted by the Court of Saline County, State of Arkansas, an ordinance to be entitled, an ordinance to amend the 2023 Saline County budget ordinance number 2022-36, anticipated revenue and to appropriate transfer funds, therefore, to the various budgets and for other purposes.
Motion by Justice Billingsley, a second by Justice Howell. Is there anybody here to speak for or against this exhibit? Are there any comments or discussion about the report? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Howell,
Yes.
Ruth,
Yes.
Curtis,
Yes.
Alvarez,
Yes.
Engel,
Yes.
Whitley,
Yes.
Chisholm,
Yes.
Wyrick, Heck,
Yes.
Bisbee,
Yes.
Patrick,
Yes.
Billingsley.
Yes.
12-4, 1 absent. Ordinance 2024-6.
Ordinance passes.
Motion to suspend the rules and include the add-on exhibit D.
We have a motion by Billingsley, or I'm sorry, by Bisbee to suspend the rule. Somebody's, and Justice Wyrick seconded. Is there any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed?
Wire, make the second.
Yes, Justice Wyrick made the second.
Motion to approve Exhibit D.
We have a motion by Justice Curtis and a second by Justice Billingsley for Exhibit D. Read by title only, please.
Being enacted by the Court of Saline County, State of Arkansas, resolution expressing the willingness of Saline County to utilize federal and service transportation block grant program funding.
Is there anybody to speak for or against this exhibit? Is there any discussion or questions from the Quorum board?
Okay, so it's $872,000 the bill, so we'll just 100% of $872,000.
This one there, this one specifically that you see is for 320. But I'll say this, the resolution that was signed in 2018 by Judge Airy, there was a request for us to update that with the current county judge's signature and current quorum court. And so that's the purpose really for this resolution.
Just trying to figure out, show something metric and it's a number that we can be asking for what we have. 20%.
It-
300,000.
320, our match will be 38.4 of that for a total of 358. Any other questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any announcements? I know we've been here for a long time. Recently, we've had a tornado in the east end of our county. That tornado, there were 14 structures damaged, 7 minor, 7 major, no injuries, no fatalities. First Electric and Energy were on scene and worked very hard to get everybody's power restored, and they did a great job. The most significant damage was on East Sardis Block Road and Chico Road. Our Office of Emergency Management, our team at 911, Saline County Sheriff's Office, and Saline County Fire Departments and first responders did an amazing job. Our Saline County Road Department, again, has showed up in an amazing way to get those roads open, to work safely, and to work with the residents in that area. And I couldn't be more proud of everybody in this county's team. So when you see any of those folks, please tell them thank you. To the TAP grant, March 7th, there will be a groundbreaking ceremony at the Old River Bridge site. Please share that. Our communications director, Trevor Valines, has done an amazing job with sharing that, and you'll see more of that to come. Last, and that, I'm going to borrow this from Justice Curtis. My last announcement, 3-part, is number one, a longtime Saline County Road Department employee, Freddie Reinhardt, passed recently. And woo, if you didn't know Freddie, that he will not be replaced in this community. What an amazing man. His celebration of life will be at Northside Church of Christ at 11 a.m. on Saturday. There'll be a visitation, I believe, from 4 to 6 at Northside Church of Christ on Friday. So please go to that. This world can use a whole lot more Freddie Reinhardt's. That's for sure. Last thing, get out and vote. New early voting started today. Please, if you're watching this, educate yourself and get out and vote. It's important. We need to exercise the right that we have. And thank you to the clerk's office and their team for the hard, tireless work that they do. That's all that I have. I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion to second.